Henry Okah said it over and over that there are all kinds of, people claiming to be leaders of men. He has said that he himself did not carry out this bombing. In fact, in many cases, they have said that they are not the Bobo Jomo, the person who claims to be speaking on behalf of men.
It is.
Henry has said so many times. Now, coming to the legal issues involved in this matter. After the prosecution closed his case in South Africa, Henry Okah and his lawyers prepared subpoenas and sent them to Nigeria, to my chambers in Abuja, and said we should help to secure the attendance of his witnesses from Nigeria that he wanted to use to defend himself. So let us be clear about this. The subpoenas we sent to the office of the Attorney General. The Attorney General wrote back to us, that was in December last year, 2012. In January, the Attorney General wrote back to us, to my chambers, saying that, look, they needed a positive order from the South African court, directed to the Attorney General to compel the Attorney General to ensure the attendance of those witnesses. And we thought that subpoenas signed by the court were sufficient orders given by the court, because a subpoena is signed by a judge, and that we take it to also be an order of court. But they said no, they needed a more positive order. We were now trying to get the positive order from South African court, and that this all happened within a period of 1 month. The South African court lost patience and said, look, we will not wait again for the witnesses to be called. And in fact, in a ruling given by the South African court, a ruling which I can make available to the world by tomorrow, the judge himself acknowledged that the Nigerian government was frustrating the effort of Henry Okah to call his witnesses from Nigeria. As I speak with you, Henry Okah did not have the opportunity to call those witnesses that he wants from Nigeria. And let me tell you that most of those witnesses were government officials.
Mr. Keyamo,
that he wanted to put on the spot.
Mr. Keyamo, we do know that a reporter was in court and a certain pastor was called as a witness. That's last week. You say no witness was called?
They did not allow him. No witness was called in support of this case. They did not allow him to call his witnesses from Nigeria.
So who were the people who appeared on his behalf when just before the mitigation hearing was held?
Is 1 month too much? 1 month, just a period of 1 month where a person who was facing a capital offense. Was it too much to give him to call his witnesses? Why did they foreclose his right so quickly? What was the rush about? So this is what must know about this. So many people have been speaking ignorantly on this issue.
Mr. Keyamo, I don't know if you heard my question. Are you aware of any group of people who appeared on behalf of Mr. Henry Okah shortly after he was sentenced?
No. The people who gave evidence, that they were giving evidence regarding sentencing. At that time he has been convicted. So the witness that came at that time, they were always trying to mitigate sentence. It was not in respect of the trial itself. Why did they not give him the opportunity? Enough time to make sure that, because this man has said, I have witnesses in Nigeria. They sent subpoenas to Nigeria. Why did they not cooperate to allow him come, and then you put someone in prison?
Well, you once said that you wrote to the Attorney General of the Federation, and in his reply, he asked that, the South African court should apply for legal assistance from the Nigerian Attorney General office 2 weeks ago.
Pardon me?
I said you once said you wrote to the Attorney General's office, and he asked the South African authorities to liaise with his office to get legal assistance concerning this case. That was about 2 weeks ago. So what's the outcome of that particular communication between you and the office of the Attorney General?
That was in January. And if you look at the letter, I've already made the letter, I've already released the letter to the press. I'm sure you have a copy of the letter in Channel Television. The letter that the Attorney General wrote to me in January, just before the conviction of Henry Okah, telling us that, look, we should tell the South African court or tell the lawyers to get a more positive order served on the Attorney General of Nigeria to get these witnesses across to South Africa under some kind of international agreement between both countries and treaties regarding witnesses in such cases. So my point is that why did they give you enough time to do that? There were still correspondence going back and forth between our office and that of the Attorney General.
You know, that's the point there, because if truly we have that kind of communication between your office and the Attorney General's office, it then means perhaps it's the South African authorities that people should put the blame on their table and not say Nigeria or the presidency or executive arm is having a hand in this whole...
the judge said,
should I say judgment?
In his ruling, it appears the Nigerian government is not quick enough, that they are not cooperating enough. They needed quicker response. But in fact, let me say that I wrote to the Attorney General's office in December, early in December 2012. I did not get a reply until the 12th or so of January 2013. So the Attorney General waited more than 1 month before he even replied me. That means there was something going on behind the scenes. They delayed it deliberately. They delayed that reply deliberately. Obviously giving signal to the South Africans to go ahead and do what he did.
What can be done now in a case like this, since he's already been sentenced?
They must rise up and condemn this judgment and call for the unconditional release of Henry Okah.
How possible is that?
Pardon me?
How possible is that?
It's very possible. Are they not calling for the Amnesty to Boko Haram now? If you did not grant pardon to allow them to say, a person convicted for fraud, for stealing the resources of Nigeria, you grant amnesty to him, and you say it's not possible to grant amnesty to somebody who has not been tried properly?
Well, right now, whilst, you know, that line, why you pursue that line of thought, we understand that this is going to go forward to appeal. Do you think that this time around you'll be able to get witnesses down to South Africa on time for the appeal?
Mark, unfortunately, if you're a lawyer, you know that on appeal, you are no longer allowed to call witnesses. Your right to call witnesses is foreclosed at the trial court. All you do at the court of appeal is only discuss issues of law based on evidence already on the record. So you are not allowed again to call fresh evidence in an appeal, except something new comes up.
So what do you think his chances are then?
You cannot call witnesses again on appeal.
What do you think his chances are then?
Well, I cannot the appeal court, so I cannot say one way or the other. But let me say that these issues are political, whether it goes on appeal or not. We must also mount political pressure on the system, on the government of both countries to do what is right.
Okay,
now everybody is calling for amnesty for Boko Haram. What is good for the goose is also good for the gander. Because even in the Nigerian arm of the trial, Charles Okah and the other suspects are kept in Kuje prisons in Abuja. In that same Kuje prison, they are treating them like dogs. It led to the death of one of them. I'm sure you know General Bokos, the one that was called General Bokos. He died in prison in Kuje prison last year. We are all witnesses to that because he was so maltreated. Whereas other Boko Haram suspects in Kuje prison are allowed freedom. They go and play football, they play tennis, they are allowed to go to service, but they are kept in solitary confinement until one of them died.
Mr. Keyamo, you were saying something about the Nigerian government asking granting him amnesty, so to speak, since they granted amnesty to someone else. But one of the charges on which he was convicted had to do with a threat to South Africans. How would that work?
Well, a threat to South Africa is it as much as the death of millions of Nigerians by the Boko Haram, and yes, everybody is calling for amnesty of Boko Haram. Will you compare a net threat or alleged threat by somebody to the actual killings of millions of Nigerians? And yes, people are calling for the amnesty to be given to them.
Can we also say, you know, because this issue of amnesty that you brought up, can a government grant amnesty in a case where it was not the one that found someone guilty?
No, we are also saying the South African government should also grant amnesty because under some kind of diplomatic